The 2024 Minnesota Vikings offseason is in full effect, and helping me break that down today is NFL Network's Marc Ross. And Marc, first and foremost, appreciate you joining me. Secondly, you have an article on NFL.com that pretty much talks about the 13 NFL players who have earned big money contracts in 2024. Kirk Cousins is number 2 on that list. How would you assess just his market value in this free agency market, given the fact that he was gone 8 or 9 games this year for this Minnesota Vikings team?
Well, I think when he was gone, that showed you the value even more so than when he was playing. And as you guys know, the value of a player, you can see it obviously when they play. Mahomes yesterday, but then when they're not there and how the team really struggles. And that's what kind of happened with the Vikings without Kirk. So he built momentum by being injured. And he was playing so well when he was in there and off to kind of the best year of his career. And then he got hurt, unfortunately. But with the market for quarterbacks and with there's so few teams that have the upper echelon guys, and Kurt has established and shown that he can be prolific and put up yards, and that there's going to be a market for that. Obviously, whether it's in Minnesota or elsewhere, teams are looking at Kirk Cousins and say, we have to have this guy. So Kirk really has struck it rich once again.
Another guy on your list of top free agents that have earned big money contracts this offseason is another Viking, Dalvin Hunter. He's 5th on the list from the defensive perspective. How can the Vikings pair the all-pro outside linebacker with Brian Flores again in 2024?
Well, it seems like Dalvin Hunter's been supposed to be getting contract extensions for 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah.
It's been forever. Like, this guy's going to get paid, and then he got hurt that year. Well, he's going to get paid this year, and he goes and performs. So Dalvin Hunter has really done all he can from a player's perspective. When free agency is coming up or your contract is coming up, you just keep playing well. And that's what he's done. He's gone out there and he's performed and racking up the most sacks of his career. And, with Brian Flores coming in there, like, we need this guy. And there's only so much, just like quarterbacks, there's only so many elite quarterbacks or even very good quarterbacks. Same thing with pass rushers. So he's up in that upper echelon of players. And when the Vikings brass and coaches are looking at the team and building for next year, it's like, we have to have this guy. We have to have this disruptor, and he's earned it. So, of course, the injuries were a factor kind of there for a little bit, but he's earned it. And I would think when you go in the offseason, you prioritize who you're going to sign, what you need. And I would think they're looking at it right now saying, okay, quarterback number 1, whether that's Kirk or not. And then we need to get Dalvin done, JJ, of course. So in that mix of when they're talking and having meetings, that's sort of what the strategy is.
Yeah, that is the number one question for this Vikings team, this Vikings fan base, is where do you start when it comes to prioritizing your offseason free agency? Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Hunter. But right now, according to Pro Football Focus, the Vikings are smack dab in the middle when it comes to cap space, $19.7 million. Looking at that number, where do you start if you're Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah?
Well, again, you got to prioritize. You have to prioritize and see who you have to keep and who you want to keep and what that number is going to be. And then you have to look at sort of the contracts that you have now and say, okay, who can we restructure? Who can we get rid of to free up some cap space? Who are we targeting in the free agent market to replace X player that we have on the team? And you really are having your game plan with your cap guy and your GM and your scouting department, pro scouting department, and in conjunction with your college scouting department, who's coming up in the draft that we can target to sort of fill these needs and holes. So it's all a puzzle that you're piecing together with the cap. Even though that number is sitting there right now, that number could change, next week or something, depending on how you restructure deals or cut players and free up cap space. So, Kwesi's a smart dude. He's a Princeton guy. I'm a Princeton guy. So I know he'll get that thing right. He knows how to work with those figures to get that right. And, it's all about prioritizing who you need to have and who's going to get you to where you need to go.
We talk quarterback, we talk pass rush. What are some other positions that the Vikings can look at when it comes to free agency versus the draft?
Well, this is when where your scouting staffs work together. Most people do or do not know. You got your college scouting staff, you got your pro scouting staff, and the college scouts, they're out on the road all year getting it together. Your pro scouts are mainly in the building, building the board for the free agency and And that's where you really need to know, all right, what positions are we strong at on the team? Where do we need help? Where are the strong positions in free agency? Where are the weak positions in free agency? Where are the strong positions in the draft? Where are the weak positions? And really talk that through to say, okay, if we target these free agents, we think we can get somebody in the draft at this position. But for the Vikings, of course, you have DT, corner, you need help there. Those are the two that really jump out outside of, okay, well, quarterback. If Kirk goes, now we got quarterback. So it's always fluid and always changing, where just like that cap number can change, what your needs are can change depending on what deals you get done with Kirk, with Daniil, with JJ. Just those three decisions right now. We lock those guys up, we're good. Well, if we don't lock those guys up, we only get one or two of those. Now we got to go elsewhere to try to supplement and find a guy for our roster. So it's really all fluid. They've got the game plan, I'm sure. If this happens, we go here. If we don't get this done, we go there. So it's really, as of now, DT, corner are priorities, but quarterback could be that guy, could be that priority. DE could be that priority. So a lot of options right now for the Vikings and where they're going in this offseason.
Marc, a lot of questions. Appreciate your time today. I'm sure we will be checking in with you between now and September as the Vikings look to get this roster in the perfect place heading into week 1 of the season.
My pleasure.